What's good, y'all? Today we're going to talk about one of my other favorite players of all time, Mr. Triple Double. No, not Nikola Jokic. I know LeBron called him that during the All-Star game, but that was disrespectful. Talking about Russ. And my thing about Russ, I feel like he's one of those players where it's hard, where his flaws are very abundant, but his highs and then his actual talent gets underrated. I'm tired of y'all see these Kyries that Kyrie's wearing right now? I used to have those in middle school, bro. I think that might have been my first pair of basketball shoes. No, I had a pair of purple Kobe's, but those were I used to love those Kyries, bro. I think I might get them again one day. But anyways, yeah, Russ. I feel like he's one of those players where he's got overtime, where he's not ranked properly. Like, I think he's a top 5 point guard of all time if we really talk about it. But that's not the point. The point is, let's respect Mr. Triple Double. Let's respect Mr. Russell Hustle Westbrook. That's what I'm going to call this video. Mr. Russell Hustle Westbrook. And how talented he is. I feel like when he first was drafted to OKC, even though it was the Supersonics and then they rebranded 2 weeks after he was drafted, I feel like he was who he was. Even I remember Stephen A. interviewed him. He was like, oh yeah, how is he going to fit with Durant? He was telling what critics were saying about him while he was interviewing Westbrook about how he couldn't shoot, this, that, and the third, how he's a little bit too ball dominant. And Russ, even though he was a rookie, said, I'm going to just play the game I am, try not to get in anybody's way, and y'all going to either like me or hate me. That's the same energy he has since he was a rookie, and that's the same energy he has as a 34-year-old. So it's nice to know that he always was who he was. And even though the most obvious thing about him is that his 3-point shot isn't that good, he's still a very effective player in his prime. When in his prime in the finals against this is pre-prime, but in 2012, he averaged 27, 7, and 6 on good efficiency for the most part, up until I would say they lost in 5, so game 5 where he was 4 for 20. But other than that series, he had 43 in the pivotal game 4, but he did miss a lot. He did take a lot of ill-advised shots. But in his whole thing about him being a stat pattern, I understand it because Russ, when he averaged his triple-double in 2017, yeah, it came at the dispense of his teammates, but his teammates weren't that good. It was only so much he can do. And yes, he could have found, maybe the coaching staff and just him as a player could have found a better way to use them in the offensive system. It's his fault, but it's 50-50. He did his part. He did the best he could with the talent that he had. With Terrence Ferguson, a young Jeremy Grant, Victor Oladipo before he was good, Domantas Sabonis before he was good. That was the team that he had. And he did his best with that. So I can't really give him too much, I guess, critique on not being able to do so much about that. But one thing about Russ, though, is just I feel like he had the ball. He was the most high usage player of all time during that run. I just feel like it was hard for his teammates to find an offensive rhythm when your player has the ball in his hand so much. Kind of like with James Harden or Jordan early in his career, Kobe when he averaged that 35. It's hard. You have to use your teammates. I feel like even though Russ, he averaged 10 assists, his assists came from, okay, I'm going to kick it to you wide open in the corner versus, he actually created the right play or he made the right pass for the player to score. So things like that. I feel like Russ, and one thing about Russ is he gives it 100% effort on every possession. You will never see I would say as he's gotten older, his defense, his off-ball defense hasn't been that good. But for the most part, Russ, he's always 100% effort. You will never see Westbrook, he's always 100%. And so when I get compared to him when I play something, I always like that. I give 100% effort. And that's one thing Russ will never cheat you. And I feel like more players need that. Every team he's been on, he's been the most durable player. On the Lakers, for those 1.5 years or 1.5 season, he played almost all the games. The Clippers, We seen what he did against the Suns, how he carried the Clippers for that little bit when Kawhi and PG was out. And just things like that just show the type of player that he is. And he's all about his teammates. Like, yeah, even though some might label him a selfish player, all his former teammates love him and say that he was the one. And even other players realize how good of a player he is, how good of a person he is. Like, Russ isn't some selfish dude who only cares about himself. So he wants all his teammates to eat and win. So things like that. I feel like, I remember, I forgot who it was. Maybe Cameron Payne, not Cam Payne, talked about how he needed some basketball shoes, like some Kobe's or something. And then he asked him what's his size, and then the next day I think it was Cam Payne, but I can't remember who it was. So even though that might not be a direct reflection of his basketball abilities, it does show him who he is as a human and a teammate. Because most players, well, most people in the NBA, they might have a little bit of, wow, that's crazy, Embiid, but a little bit of an ego to them. And as they should, there's only like 400 players in the NBA. You one of the 400 best basketball players. So I do feel like Russ, he has his flaws, but I feel like he's always so attacked by the media. Like, he's always the scapegoat. Like, that year with the Lakers was the prime example of him being a scapegoat. Like, everybody just said, yep, the Lakers would have won if it wasn't for Russ. Like, yeah, Russ, I would say especially once he came off the bench that second half of the next season, or the first half of the next season, Russ was averaging good numbers. Like, he was doing his part. So we can't even say it's all Russ's fault. Like, that fit, we knew him and LeBron wasn't going to work. That's not his fault. Because neither one of them, even though they're both respectable shooters, but that's being generous by calling them respectable shooters. So it's just things like that. Russ is one of those players where I feel like it's going to pay me to sell this. He's a first-round exit type of guy. He can be the best player on a bad playoff team and put up great numbers. Like, I feel like him as a number two he doesn't have the ability to win as a number one option, even though the team like Golden State were around. But teams like, and I feel like he's one of those, not what-if players necessarily for him, but like the teams that he was on are a bunch of what-ifs. Like, let's say if OKC kept Harden, or like 2014, when I think he was hurt, and then the year and like when the year he was hurt, and then 2015 KD being hurt, which is funny because KD's on the 2K15 cover. So it's weird to me. So things like that just always stuck out to me. Like, I feel like Russ has one of those careers of like, what if things went right? And I feel like, Russ, he's always put up great numbers. Like, I'm talking like all-time numbers, but he just never really won with them. And that's okay. I'm not going to say that's okay, but we can't really discredit him. If he's performing and his team isn't really doing that, then there's only so much blame we can give him. But I do feel like Russ is one of those players that he needs his flowers. Like, Russ is a great player. He's one, I would say, only point guards that I would say is better than him: Steph, Magic, probably Stockton. It's debatable with Nash. Then there's Russ. Russ is better than CP to me. I feel like he has more like individual accolades than CP, and they've both been to the finals and lost. And I would say Russ was more impactful in the finals that he lost, even though he lost, than CP was. So he has 2 scoring titles, 3 assist titles. He averaged a triple-double 4 separate times. And then one of his most underrated seasons is that his season in Houston when he averaged like 27, 8, and 8, playing with another ball-dominant guard in his prime, and James Harden. Like, that's remarkable. That probably might be one of the best second-option seasons of all time, where you average 27, 8, and 8 with another high-usage point guard. Shooting guard, combo guard, whatever you want to call him. That's remarkable. But yeah, Russ, he needs his flowers. I feel like we have a tendency to disrespect players that we don't like. And I feel like over the years, Russ has become more liked, but people just don't like him because that he can't shoot and just things like that. But he's one of those players that the media and fans don't like, but he's respected by his peers. And I guess when it's all in all, that's all that matters. But yeah, Russ is one of those players. He's a good player. He puts up good numbers. Even that season with the Wizards when nobody thought they thought, oh, him and John Wall were equal, things like that. I'm like, whoa, I don't know if y'all overrating John Wall or if y'all disrespecting Russ or a little bit of both, but they are not in the same caliber of player. So let's not do that. People are saying they're trading problem for problem. It's the same player. And I love J Wall. I'm going to make a video about him too, hopefully. But yeah, I feel like he has a lot of underrated seasons. That season with Houston, it's not really underrated, but like not talked about enough. I would say the year with the Wizards where he averaged like 21, 11, and 11. And that second half, he put that team on his back. Like he was doing things like not game winners, but like he was closing out games. We all know that game against the Nets where they were down and then him and Bradley Beal just went off. So things like that. That season is very much not talked about enough. And it might have been a little bit more competitive in the playoffs. I don't think they would have beat Philly, even though Philly lost to the Hawks the round after that. But he did get hurt, and that's the infamous when a fan threw popcorn on him. Just corny stuff like that. I feel like that's a player where, like, that's just disrespectful. Fans, those Philly fans, but yeah, Russ, he's gonna have his moments where he chokes, but I feel like he's one of those players you got to take the good and the bad with. And Russ, he's talented enough to do that. And I don't think the Clippers are gonna win the chip, but I do feel like he's going to be a big impact on where they go as a team. Like, Russ has a third option. Like, I feel like when he plays, I feel like this is some of the best basketball we've been seeing from Russ in these last 1.5 years, I guess, with the second half with the Lakers and then this season with the Clippers. I feel like this is some of the best ball we've seen from Russ. And I don't think he's a first option guy. I think, he should be a second or third option, but it's kind of hard when you're ball dominant and you're a point guard to be the third option. But I feel like he's been making it work. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about Russ and how I feel like he needs his respect as a player. Comment down who y'all think's better, Prime Russ or Prime Harden. Maybe I'll do a video about who's better. I don't know. But, yeah, let me know y'all thoughts.